It had been a horrible trip. A 2-day stop only for gas, restroom, and fast food drive. Home from what was to have been 2 weeks of renewal. It was late. We got home and there was little in the way of normal food in the house. Up early for work, I stopped at the local donut shop for a couple of my favorites and a coffee on my way. The whole office was surprised by my very early return. No time for a good lunch, so I had a package of cheese crackers and a soda at my desk. Met with my boss and got totally chewed out for someone else's mistake. Home in time to watch my wife, Lori, drive down the street followed by a rental truck. Her destination unknown, at least to me. I took a power protein bar out of the cooler we took on the ill-fated trip. The food we put in. It, when we left, sat there unused. The ice and ice packs melted and everything was warm. The protein bar was soaked with water from the melted ice and looked awful. In the living room, most of the stuff she had before we married was gone. I went to the bedroom. Her childhood dresser and chest of drawers were also gone. None of her things were there, and her closet was empty. In the kitchen, 3 dirty coffee cups sat on the island. Her family's china and crystal were gone. None of that came as a surprise. The purpose of the trip was to try to work out a couple problems our 2-year marriage had developed. To be honest, we only had one big one, but it was the biggest, and to cheat or not to cheat, that was the question. My goal was to not cheat. One of the songs the DJ played at our reception was something about getting married in a fever, and that described us pretty well. We knew each other for only 6 months before getting married. Do you have any idea how many people told us both it was a huge mistake to do it so soon? The short answer is virtually everybody I knew or was related to. It was the same with her, but we wouldn't listen because we were in love and we knew better than all of them combined. God, what incredible idiots we were. The fever that the reception song referred to ended pretty soon after the minister pronounced us man and wife. The remnants of the wedding cake weren't even stale when the problems began. They started with her new boss's son, a college football player who was raised to believe that he was entitled to anything he wished. His father bought the car dealership where my wife worked. There are 6 new car dealerships in our small town, and after Martin Justin Jr. bought the one Lori worked at, he owned 3 of them. Lori had worked there for 4 years and had been instrumental in getting my cousin, Jeffrey, hired to detail the cars. Everyone who knew Jeff liked and trusted him. He is not the brightest or quickest guy in the world, and cleaning cars was a job he liked, and he did it well. He is also a pretty decent mechanic, but never had the confidence to work at it full time. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding, and in addition to being my cousin, I considered him a good friend. After Justin bought the dealership, his son didn't come around at first because he was in school, but when it was over for the summer, he started hanging around, and the office where mostly females worked became his favorite hangout spot. It didn't take long for Lori's desk to become the center of his universe when he was at the dealership. At first he was a nuisance, according to Lori. Then she said nothing about him, and I assumed he either stopped or went on to someone else to pester. No. Jeff was more silent than usual one evening while he and I were sitting on the porch of Lori's in my rented house. He liked to drink, but had a very low tolerance, so I always had something light for him. If he ever knew the difference, he never said anything. Don't get the wrong idea. He is no dummy. He just can't catch on to things very fast, but, man, when he learns something, anything, he never forgets it, and he is intensely loyal to his friends, and especially me. So we were sitting on the porch. He hadn't said much and barely touched his drink. I would often find him staring at me. Okay, Jeff, what's up? Roger likes Lori. Roger was Justin's son. I chuckled. Everybody likes Lori. Lori likes Roger. No, she doesn't. Tim, I'm not that slow. He spends a lot of time talking to her. Today he left for lunch at the same time she did, and they came back at the same time. Lori never went out for lunch. She always ate in the break room and watched shows on TV. Are you sure? He nodded slowly. That was the first indicator that there was trouble in paradise. We didn't talk about it any more that evening. When she got home, I asked her if everything at work was okay and if she was having any problems. Everything is fine. Why do you ask? No reason. Roger was being a pest before, and you haven't mentioned him in a while. Oh, he's still a pest, but I can handle him. The second, third, and fourth indicators came in rapid succession, and all came from Jeff. Inappropriate touching, like his hand on her butt or her hand on his leg when they were sitting close together. stuff like that. But nothing that directly pointed to cheating. I didn't like what I was hearing, but I hadn't said anything to Lori about it either. I just told Jeff to keep an eye on them and tell me what he saw. Those times when he saw something inappropriate, he called me. I was usually pretty aggressive and confrontational, but I bided my time for a couple of reasons. First, I really didn't want to think about her doing something untoward like cheating, but I also didn't want to hear all the "I told you so's" I'd get from everyone I knew, if she did cheat. One afternoon, he called to tell me Lori and Jeff were in Jeff's father's office, kissing. Kissing crossed the line. I talked to her about it that evening. At first, she denied everything, but finally admitted she and Roger had played around and kissed a little, but nothing serious happened. "Is something serious going to happen?" I asked. "Of course not," was her response. I let it be known in no uncertain terms that I would tolerate no further playing around and kissing, and that adultery would definitely result in a divorce. We can get divorced just as quickly as we got married, and I won't hesitate getting a divorce if you ever sleep with anyone else. Although I never told her how I knew about her and Roger, Jeff was fired the next day. It wasn't difficult to figure that one out. Lori and I never discussed his firing, but I did comment on how terrible it was to fire a handicapped person. I also mentioned that Jeff and I were going to file a complaint against Justin with the ADA people. Nobody ever considered Jeff to be handicapped, just slow, and the mention of filing a complaint was just me blowing off. He and I had not discussed any such thing. The next day, Jeff was hired back to work in one of the other two dealerships Martin Justin Jr. owned, but the employees where he originally worked protested so much that he was brought back to his original job. It was an interesting exercise in human relations. Virtually everyone at the dealership leaped to Jeff's defense. After our chat and my declaration that divorce could be gotten quickly, Lori and I had several discussions about appropriate behavior for married people. First and foremost among those behaviors was the fact that you never let yourself get in a situation that was not spouse-approved. For example, while lunch alone with a member of the opposite gender, not a family member, may be totally innocent, its appearance could possibly start rumors, especially in a small town. Once rumors start, there is no controlling them, and a good reputation can go south in a hurry. After that particular conversation, we did some soul-searching and decided to take some time off and try to get some of the magic back, some of the fever the song at our reception referred to. We planned the trip, got the time off, packed and drove off. We took 2 full days to get there. The first few hours of the trip were pleasant enough, but then we hadn't been on the road for 4 hours and her phone rang. She looked at it, but didn't answer. She did turn off the ringer, however. Less than an hour later, she got another call. She was holding it in her hand and it vibrated. She felt the initial vibration and she jumped nervously. She looked but didn't answer, but just a few minutes later asked if we could stop to use the restroom. We pulled into a big truck stop. I pulled up to a pump and she jumped out and went inside. I usually dislike thoughtless drivers who fill their tanks then let their vehicle sit at the pump while they go inside and shop or use the facilities. That generally means other drivers have to wait to fill up. It flows much smoother if, after you fill your tank, you park your vehicle before going inside. But what the hell? That's just me complaining. I was a thoughtless person at that time. As she hurried inside, I followed. She never looked back and was on her phone as soon as she was inside the door. "I told you I'd call when I had a chance." There was a pause. "Damn it, Roger, I mean it. I'll call you when I get back." Another pause. "Roger, don't." She looked at her phone, then looked around her. I ducked below a long shelf of snacks and waited a few seconds before lifting my head to see if she was still there. Her back was to me as I heard her speak. "You bastard. Don't ever hang up on me again." Apparently the bastard did hang up on her again because she just looked at her, apparently dead, phone again. She didn't bother looking around that time. She just tried to call him, but he never answered. She was looking down at her phone when I walked up and stood in front of her. "Is everything okay?" I asked. Yeah, it's fine." She looked at me. "I have to use the restroom," she said, as she rushed away. I returned to the car and filled its tank. She came out carrying a soda. I looked at her. "That's okay. I'll get my own," I said as I started inside. She stared as if she had no idea that it would have been nice to have at least asked me if I wanted something from the store. As I left the store with my own soda, I looked and she was on the phone again. She ended. Just as I opened the door to get in, I said nothing as I started the car and drove off. We spent that night in a motel. We had pizza delivered to our room and were in bed before 10. We drove most of the next day with very little conversation. We checked into our hotel, ate, dinner in the hotel dining room, and went to bed. I was still awake staring at the darkness just after 11 when I saw her phone light up. No noise, just the light. She jumped up and ran to the bathroom with it. I rose slowly and stood outside the closed bathroom door trying to hear, but couldn't. "Please don't," were the only 2 words I understood. The conversation went on for a couple of minutes as I stood trying to make out what she was saying but could not. I was still standing there when she opened the door. She screamed. I had frightened the crap out of her. What are you doing there?" she asked after she realized who it was. "I was just wondering what you were doing there." I indicated the bathroom. "Nothing, just using the bathroom." "Did you need your phone for that?" Yes, I used its light so I wouldn't hit anything getting here." She tried to go around me. "You forgot to flush." "Oh, yeah." She went back and flushed. "Who were you talking to?" "What?" "Who were you talking to?" "Nobody." "Why?" I knew she was lying, and she knew I knew. "I'm going to bed. In the morning, tell me who you were talking to and what you were talking about, or we're going home. We came on this trip to try to sort things out, but that will take both of us. Keeping secrets doesn't bode well if that is our plan." I went to bed, where I finally fell asleep just before sunup. She was sitting on the sofa in the room when I awoke about an hour after I went to sleep. I sat up, put a couple of pillows behind me, and looked at her. She looked back at me. It was Roger. What was it about? He wants me to sleep with him, I thought before I responded. "Again?" I asked. She hesitated before nodding. That was a shot in the dark on my part. I had no reason to believe they had actually slept together. I was honestly taken aback by her admission. "How many times have you slept with him already?" 2. "Why?" "I'm not sure. The first was curiosity, I think. And the second? He said if I didn't he would tell you, and he's threatening it again." "Yes." I knew what my response was going to be. I had never given her any indication that cheating would be okay. In fact, I had told her point blank what would happen if she did, and I expected no less from her if I cheated. "You know that ends our marriage, don't you?" Tears appeared in her eyes as she nodded again. I got up and went to the bathroom. Regardless of what's happening around you, when the urge to pee hits, you pee. After I flushed and washed my hands, I brushed my teeth, washed my face, put my toothbrush and paste back in my shaving kit, and opened the door. "I'm going home. You can either ride with me or wait for him to come pick you up." It only took a few minutes to pack and leave the room. I checked us out and we got in the car and began the long, stop-only-for-gas restroom and fast food trip alluded to earlier. The trip should have given her an opportunity to apologize, ask for forgiveness, or beg for a second chance, but she didn't do any of those things. In fact, neither of us spoke the entire time. When we stopped, she bought her food and I bought mine. If she needed to stop for the restroom, she never once mentioned it. When we stopped, she was always first back to the car. At home, my first day back at work was over. The house was clear of anything belonging to. Lori and I hadn't had a good meal in days. We had never used the only food delivery service in town, but I figured now was a good time to start. I went to their site, opened an account, and ordered food. 40 minutes later, the delivery service rang my doorbell. I took my food, gave the driver a tip in addition to the one I added to the total when I ordered the food, and looked forward to enjoying it with a glass, or 2 or 6. I put the food on a TV tray and sat to eat. From my chair, I could see both the TV and out my front window to the street. A car sat on the street with someone in the driver's seat. As I ate, my attention went from the TV to the car where the driver just sat there. I was half through the meal and the driver hadn't moved. I took a sip and went outside. The driver saw me coming and lowered the window. It was my food delivery driver and she was in tears. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No, my car won't start and I can't get anyone to help me." I hadn't paid any attention to either her or her car when she first arrived because my mind was on other things. Everyone I know is tied up or not answering, and my brother can't be here for another hour. Another thing I hadn't noticed was the child in the back seat. She was sitting with a book in her lap, looking like she wanted to cry too. "Would you like me to look at it?" "Oh God, please do." She opened her door and slid over. I sat behind the wheel and turned the key. Click, 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 then nothing. I did it again. No clicking that time. Just nothing. I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I know when a battery is dead. I brought my car and tried to jump-start her car, but no luck. All of a sudden it was above my pay grade. "Look, why don't the two of you come inside? I'll ask my cousin to come over and take a look at it." They reluctantly followed me in. "Make yourselves comfortable while I call him." Jeff was there in 15 minutes and her car was running in 30. She thanked me, talked to Jeff, hugged him, and left. The next 2 days at work sucked. I hadn't told anyone about Lori, and my boss was all over me like white on rice, and I was tired of it. My personal life was down the toilet, and he expected a silk purse out of a sow's ear on a marginally profitable project. I decided it was time for a come-to-Jesus meeting with him. "I'm tired of you ragging on me. The project was a loser from the beginning, and I told you it was a loser. I hate ultimatums, but you either stay off and let me see what I can make of it, or you can give it to someone else, or you can screw yourself and I'm out of here. Your choice, I'm going home. Call me when you've decided." I felt pretty confident that he would let me cool down for a couple of days, then call me back to work. Besides, I needed to find an attorney and get the divorce started. That evening, I called Jeff to see if he wanted to have a drink. "I can't, I have a date." He had dated when we were both in high school, and when I was in college, he used to call and tell me about his few and far between dates and would ask my advice. If he ever got lucky, I never heard about it, but then he's the type of guy who wouldn't go around bragging about it, even to me. In addition to being a bit on the slow side of life, he was also terribly shy, and strangers made him very nervous. Well, good for you. Who is the lucky girl? Jenny. Jenny who? The food girl. What food girl? The one at your house with the broken car. Are you serious? Yes. Well, Mr. Smooth Talker, how did that happen? When I fixed her car, I told her that if she needed any more help to call me. So she did. And you helped her again. He chuckled like a kid. I did. So, where are you taking her? No place? No place. No, I'm going to her house. She's making dinner for me. I laughed, happy for him, but couldn't resist the opportunity to tease him. You know she's a vegan, don't you? What's that? That's someone who only eats plants. No meat, no eggs, no dairy products. Jeff was a real meat and potatoes kind of guy. There are a couple of restaurants that advertise that if you eat a huge steak, which is more like a roast with the salad, veggies, and dessert, it's free. There is one not too far from us. Jeff did it. He was sick for 2 days, but he did it. No meat, not even a hamburger? What will I eat? Well, there'll be lots of salad, maybe some beans, and if you're lucky, quinoa. Queen who? Not queen, quinoa. It's a seed used to make lots of vegan dishes. They used to feed it to animals years ago in the Lake Titicaca region of South America before people started eating it. Titty what? I'm not hungry anymore. I laughed into the phone. I'm kidding, Jeff. I have no idea what she eats, but whatever it is, I'm sure it will be good. Go and have fun. I decided to call the food delivery service again for my own dinner. The next day I was putzing around the house. Lori was gone and I still had over a year on the lease, so I figured I'd make it comfortable for me. I also figured my boss would call, apologize, and ask me to come back to work. By mid-afternoon he hadn't called, but his wife did. Tim, I'm getting tired of listening to your father complain about you screwing things up. You have a degree. Why don't you go to work for someone else if the two of you can't get along? I'm thinking about doing that, Mom, but you know I'd have to move somewhere else. That's the only thing bad about it. Why can't you just do what he wants you to do? Because he's doing things the old way. We need to modernize. Have you explained that to him? Over and over, but he's too stubborn to listen. Well, I don't want you to move, so talk to him again. Okay, I promise. He'll get over it and call me tomorrow, I'm sure. I'm looking right at him. Just go back to work tomorrow. He's nodding his head, that's. Okay now. Why don't you and Lori come over for dinner tomorrow? I'd be happy to, Mom, but she won't be there. Why not? I had put off telling them, but figured it was time. I started telling her and she started, relaying to my father until he told her to put me on speaker. When I finished, he got on the phone. Here's what we'll do. I'm firing you so you don't have a job. When it goes to court, you won't have an income, so you won't have to pay her any alimony. You'll get your job back after the divorce. I told you she was no good and she proved it. You're better off without her, added my mother. Thank you both, but I'll take care of it. See you at the office, Dad. Mom, I'll see you tomorrow for dinner. I spent a lot of the next day trying to explain why and how I thought changes would help the company, but my father was more interested in hearing about Lori and telling me, I told you so. After work, we had dinner with my mother, and I had to rehash the story of Lori and rehear his I told you so's, and my mother added her own. When I got home later, Lori was on the porch. It was the first time I'd seen her since our aborted trip. I could see her in the porch light. I pulled into the garage and went into the house from there. The doorbell was ringing as I walked to the switch by the front door, switched off the porch light, then went and took a shower. She was gone when I finished. Finding an attorney was easy. Finding one who wanted anything to do with a divorce which Roger Justin was involved either directly or indirectly, was a bit more challenging. But I did. Of course, I'll take the case. His old man sold me the biggest lemon I've ever had, and he never made up for it. And so it began. The paperwork, the meetings, the sessions with Lori and her attorney. I never spoke directly to her during the whole process, and other than the visit to the house the evening I ignored her, she had shown no interest in wanting to talk, and I didn't want to talk at all. She cheated, so as far as I was concerned, talking was useless. According to Jeff, Lori transferred to one of the other dealerships and Roger rarely showed up. The water cooler scuttlebutt was that Roger dumped her and went on to someone more deserving of him. In the meantime, Jeff and Jenny were getting along famously, and Jenny's daughter thought he was wonderful. He divided his off time between her house and mine, and was happier than I had ever seen him. The more he talked about his relationship with Jenny, the more I realized the only personal relationship I'd had in the last few weeks was with my hand. I went from work to home, with an occasional side trip to the attorney's office, grocery store, or my parents' house. Dad had gotten his fill of I told you so's and even made a couple of attempts to understand my ideas for improving the company. Mom kept finding me girls and I kept refusing to date them. Ours is a relatively small town, and I had no idea there were as many single eligible girls as she found. I think she put out a casting call, handsome, college-educated 28-year-old man in the process of getting a divorce looking for a suitable girl. Must be honest, faithful, and trustworthy. Her looks secondary to her personality. Must like music, theater, good drinks, and good food. I stopped taking her calls after the 5th date she set me up with and told my father that the first time he mentioned fixing me up, I was moving to Houston. I finally spoke to Lori on the day our divorce was final. The judge banged his gavel, declared the marriage ended, and I went to her. Was it worth it? I turned and walked away before she could answer. Jeff used to keep my car clean, but had stopped because he was too busy cleaning Jenny's, so one Saturday I was washing it. He pulled in the driveway with Jenny and her daughter, Sophie. Sophie was about 7 or 8. They were going to the mall and asked if I wanted to go. I dropped my sponge into the bucket of water, dried my hands, and said, "Let's go." When? I'm so bored I go to the mall to walk around just to have something to do. I have reached the bottom of the barrel, but that's what I did. We had been there for about an hour, and I was beginning to regret my decision to come. When we passed an ice cream kiosk and Sophie asked if she could have some. "Not now, sweetie," said Jenny. "It's too close to dinner." "To heck with that," I said. "Come on, Soph, I want some too." She grabbed my hand and started running. "We'll see you later," I yelled over my shoulder. We were licking our ice cream cones and walking holding hands. "We have to hold hands," said Sophie. "My mommy told me that she doesn't want to get lost when we're with a lot of people, so I have to hold her hand. I don't want you to get lost, so I have to hold your hand too." "That's a good idea." We had been walking for a few minutes, and when she wasn't licking her ice cream cone, she was chatting. All of the sudden I felt myself being thrown to the ground and was knocked out when my head hit the floor. When I came to, I was in handcuffs, surrounded by policemen and an angry crowd. I looked and Sophie was crying and being held by a woman. What the hell? Just shut up, slimeball. We'll get to you in a minute. It's okay, Sophie, I heard the woman say. He can't hurt you now. He wasn't hurting me. He bought me ice cream. I know, baby, bad men sometimes do that. He's not a bad man, Aunt Louise. Where's my mommy? I've called her. She's on her way. Is Tim hurt? Who's Tim? Him, she said, pointing at me. Every time I tried to speak, a police officer told me to shut up. Do you know him? Yes, he's Jeff's cousin. We came shopping. Oh my God, said Aunt Louise, then to one of the policemen. I think I made a mistake. Christ, lady, don't tell me that. He looked at the crowd. We better get him out of here. Before this crowd tears him to pieces, he grabbed my arm. Let's go. Some of the crowd followed us to the security office. I heard things like, castrate the bastard, and let us have him. I was getting scared, and every time I started to say something, one or another of the policemen told me to be quiet, that I would have a chance to talk later. I was put in a room, searched, my pockets emptied, and still in handcuffs. Finally, 2 policemen came in, uncuffed me, returned my wallet, watch, and other stuff, and started apologizing. Jenny and Jeff came in as well. Oh God, Tim. I am so sorry, said Jenny. My sister saw you with Sophie, didn't know who you were, and thought you were kidnapping her. I was rubbing my wrists. I had seen people on TV who were in handcuffs, and when they were taken off, rubbed their wrists. I never knew why before, but I did then. Those damn things hurt. I was pissed, shocked, still a bit frightened and nervous. Jeff kept asking me if I was okay. Jenny continued to be apologetic, and Sophie clung to Jenny for dear life. I looked at one of the officers. Am I free to go? Yes, sir, but before you go, we have a release form we'd like for you to sign. You just threw me to the ground, knocked me out, handcuffed me, and called me names. I'm not signing any release form until I talk to my attorney. I walked out of that room into a larger room. One of the mall's security officers was standing at the door. Is this the way out? Yes, sir, but I wouldn't go out there if I was you. Why not? Because there are some people out there that think you're a child molester and they're waiting for you. Jesus Christ, can this day get any worse? Can't you tell them the truth? We've tried. We'll take you out the back way, Mr. Jeffries, said a police sergeant. He, or someone else, had obviously gone through my wallet and knew my name. Take him to my car, said Jeff. The sergeant looked at me. Why don't you let us take you home? We'll use my car. It's unmarked. Let's go. It wasn't that I was mad or upset with Jeff, Jenny, or even Aunt Louise. I just wanted out of there, and I figured the quickest, safest way was with a police escort. We were at the back door when Aunt Louise stopped me. I'm so sorry. I saw you with Sophie and thought you were kidnapping her. I took a deep breath. I understand, but I have been assaulted, knocked out, and a bunch of people out there. I pointed to the main office door. Want to eat me alive? I don't think you should talk to me right now. Then to the sergeant. Take me home. After I gave him my address, neither of us said anything until we pulled in my driveway. My phone had rung at least 6 times, but I ignored it. I didn't want to talk to anyone. At home, I started to get out of his car and he stopped me. Mr. Jeffries, I'm sorry you got caught up like this, but from my point of view, I'd much rather things happen this way than to have a young girl kidnapped because someone saw something but didn't say anything. I'll take good Samaritans like Louise Garner any day. I understand and agree with you from your position, but tonight on the news, my name and picture will most likely be broadcast all over the area. Since it was a mistake, it shouldn't be reported at all, but it's sensational, so it will be. News people can't help themselves. The news will then say that it was all a mistake and everything is all right, but half of the people who see it will not believe that part of the story, and I will be branded for life. Thank you for the ride home. It might not be that bad. I'll see what I can do. Yeah, and pigs can fly, I thought to myself. I got in my car and went straight to my parents' house. We watched the local news that evening, and sure enough, there it was. It was already on when we turned on the TV and found the right channel. We missed the first part of the story, but what we heard was, see something, say something, even if it turns out to be a mistake. By not saying something, you could be dooming an innocent child to an unbelievable fate. The upside for me was they never gave my name or showed my picture. The commentator even closed the story with, "We've chosen not to identify the gentleman involved for fear that his life would be turned even more upside down than it was this afternoon. On a personal note, I offer him my most sincere apology. This is Louise Garner. Good night." "Well, you dodged a bullet," said my father. "It wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it would be." "No, it wasn't." "What are you going to do now?" my mother asked, and let it go, I guess. If I tried to sue for false arrest, it would get out, and my name and picture would be out there for sure. I don't want that to happen, and the police were doing what they thought was best at the time. On my way home, I remembered my phone. There were 8 messages by then. 3 from Jeff apologizing for what happened and telling how badly Jenny felt. The caller ID showed the others were from the city police and a local TV station. I didn't listen to any of those. It was later that I remembered how the TV news lady ended the show. "This is Louise and Garner. Good night." Goddamn, what did the police sergeant say to me? I'll take good Samaritans like Louise Garner any day. Well, screw you. I hadn't really looked at her at the mall, so I didn't recognize her on TV. I guess makeup made her look different. I called Jeff because I knew he would be worried about me. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine, still a bit shaken. How's Sophie?" "She's good. It frightened her when the police jumped you and she dropped her ice cream. She was okay after we got her some more and she knew that you were okay." "I'm glad she's okay. Did you see the news?" "Most of it. We missed the first part." "Hell, that was the best part." "Why?" Louise started by telling what happened and that she was the one who started the whole thing. She said she saw her niece walking with a strange man and basically panicked. She followed you while she was on the phone with the police. She didn't trust the mall security, so she stayed behind you and kept the police aware of where you were until they got there. She took full responsibility for what happened and said that given the same circumstances, she would probably do it again. I guess I understand that. She was afraid you might get away with Sophie before the police got there, so as she followed you, she kept looking for things she might use to hit you with. She really does feel bad. Why didn't you tell me before that Jenny's sister was on TV? I didn't think it mattered. It doesn't, I guess. I got the impression the night Jenny delivered food to my house that she was, well, that she needed money, but if her sister is a TV personality, she can't be too bad off. It's local stuff, so Louise doesn't make a lot of money. I don't know how much, but I know it isn't a lot, and Jenny is just like most of us, I guess. She gets along but doesn't have much extra. If she wants something extra, she has to find the money. She's saving for a vacation, so she has a second job delivering food. Good for her. Yeah, he paused. I like her, Tim, and she likes me. She doesn't care if I'm slow. I smiled. Nobody cares if you're slow, Jeff. That doesn't matter to your friends, and we don't care what others think. Things got back to normal over the next few days, and nothing was ever said about the mall incident. I hadn't seen Jenny or Sophie, but Jeff and I had talked every couple of days like we normally did. It was another Saturday mid-morning. I was eating a late breakfast of biscuits and gravy when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and Louise Garner stood there. "Good morning, are you busy?" she asked. "Not really, I was just putting a salve on my wrists to ease the pain from handcuffs." "Tim, if I may call you that, I am so sorry." "Oh, that's okay. Now that I've been in handcuffs, all my homies in the hood treat me with more respect." "Maybe I should leave." No, come on in. I was just on the phone to my parole officer." She just looked at me sadly. "I can only apologize so many times. Sorry to have bothered you." She turned to leave. "Wait a minute," I said. There was no reason for me to be a jerk. She stopped. "I'm still smarting a bit. I'll get over it." "Well, when you do, call me." She handed me a card. "I owe you lunch at the very least." "I don't know about lunch, but have you had breakfast?" "Actually, no." "Do you like biscuits and gravy?" "Sausage gravy?" "Yes." "One of my favorites," she said, smiling. I opened the door wider and she came in. In the kitchen, I gave her a plate and pointed to the stove where the biscuits and gravy were. "Want me to heat the gravy?" I asked. "I can do it if you don't mind," she said. "Help yourself. Coffee?" "Yes, please." "Want something in it?" This may sound weird, but do you have any chocolate milk?" "Instead of coffee." No. In it." "In it?" Yes, she answered timidly. I know it sounds strange, but she was only the second person I'd ever known that put chocolate milk in her coffee. I was the other. Only for the last few years I'd substituted Bailey's. Did Jeff put you up to that? What? Chocolate milk in your coffee? No, why? I'm the only person I know who does, or rather did that, only now it's you too, are you? Sure Jeff didn't put you up to it. I've had chocolate milk in my coffee since I started drinking it. My whole family does, even Sophie when Jenny lets her have it. Well, I don't have any chocolate milk, but I do have Bailey's. The rest of the morning went quickly and pleasantly, and Louise became a Bailey's in her coffee convert. That was the first breakfast she and I shared, but it was far from the last. We started dating, and I became her biggest TV fan. Our first kiss was on our third date. Our first night was 3 weeks after that, and it was my first since before Lori's and my aborted trip of rediscovery, where the only thing I discovered was that she cheated. Shortly after Jeff and Jenny became an item, he decided he wanted more out of life and started working on cars full-time. Within 6 months, he had his own garage and more business than he could handle. Jenny and Sophie were obviously good for him. I'm sure there is a scientific or psychological explanation for it, but it seemed that Jeff got, smarter, quicker, more alert. I couldn't put my finger on it, but he was different and much more confident. Louise and I helped him when he moved in with Jenny. Sophie became his shadow and went every place he did. I saw them holding hands and commented to her about her keeping him from getting lost. No, we keep each other from getting lost. I couldn't think of any nicer thing she could say about him. A year after the divorcee, I heard that Lori was getting married again, but not to Roger. Justin. She was marrying some poor schmuck who worked for the city sanitation department. They had known each other for 5 months. In my mind, I wished him good luck. I figured he would need it. I had realized long before that I neither hated nor even disliked her. It was both of our faults that we got married so soon. Of course, the cheating bit was totally her fault. Life was good for almost 2 years. Jeff and Jenny were in the middle of planning their wedding. Louise was the bridesmaid and I was the best man. Their parents had divorced when Louise, the youngest sibling, was 4. Their brother would walk Jenny down the aisle. The lease on my house had lapsed and I moved in with Louise. Marriage had never been discussed, and we both seemed perfectly happy that even in the midst of Jeff and Jenny's wedding plans, there was no such discussion about our getting married. There is a publication that lists vacancies at radio and TV stations throughout the country. Unbeknownst to Louise, the guy who produced her news program put together some of her old videos and sent them to much larger markets than our little area. He liked her work and wanted to help her advance. One day she received a call from a TV station in Houston. The news director saw several of the videos and asked for more. The bottom line was that he asked her to come to Houston for a chat. She was elated and we talked about it. It was a dream come true for her, so we decided she should go. She told me after the interview that one of the videos he saw that made him want her was the one where she thought I was kidnapping Sophie. The chat went well. They gave her what amounted to an on-camera audition and told her they would call her. They did. 2 weeks later, he offered her a job. The decision to take the job was a foregone conclusion as far as I was concerned. It was a huge step in the direction of a possible national gig, and that, of course, is what every broadcaster aspires to. My hard-headed father had finally been convinced to do a couple of things my way, and the change was working. Our business was growing slowly but surely, and I was having a ball helping it. He was happy, I was happy, our employees were more than happy, and the bottom line was very happy. Moving to Houston was not a viable option for me. Houston was about 4 hours away from us, but Louise and I concluded that we could deal with that distance and maintain our relationship, and we did, for 6 months. Then the trips to see each other and the phone calls began to get fewer and farther between. We couldn't watch her on our TV because our cable provider didn't provide it. I could watch her online and often did. She had only been there 3 months and was moved from the news desk to a daily talk show where she and her co-host chatted with guests and their studio audience about everything under the sun. They also attended virtually every charity function in their broadcast area. Their pictures occasionally appeared in their newspaper and on the website, and she appeared to be having the time of her life. Oddly enough, so was I. The challenge of the growing business was ideal for me, and I found myself spending less and less time seeing what Louise was doing. The downside, of course, was sleeping alone. At least I was. I had no inkling that she was. Sleeping with her drop-dead handsome co-host or anyone else, but with Lori as my only point of reference, the thought of it was never far away. One Wednesday morning, I drove to Houston to surprise her. I told my father I was taking the rest of the week off and going to see her. "Does it have to be this week?" he asked. "It's been quite a while, and I think she and I need to chat." "I'd prefer you wait." "Can't do it." Right after he and I talked, Jeff called and said he needed help that afternoon and asked when I could be there. "I'm going to Houston. Be back Sunday." "That will be too late." "What's so important that it can't wait?" I asked. "It's something for Jenny." "Jeff, I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm going to Houston." Their show was live every morning. They spent their afternoons researching their guests and developing a plan for the next day's show. It wasn't like they just showed up, did the hour-long show, then went home. They worked full days on research and program development. I got to her apartment just after noon. I figured I'd wait for her there, found that my key no longer worked. I rang the bell and there was no response. I went to the building manager's office and asked to be given a new key. She knew me and greeted me warmly, but when I told her what I wanted, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that." "Why not?" "We have a new policy that only the leaseholder can authorize issuance of keys or admittance into the premises, and they have to physically sign for keys." "But you know me." "Yes, sir, I do, but the rules are the rules." "Let me ask a question." "Okay. Would it make a difference if I were her husband?" "That would depend on who signed the lease. Only the lessee can authorize it, period." I knew a brick wall when I saw it, so I left her office and went through the parking garage, on my way to my car. Her reserved space was empty. I called her from my car. No answer, so I left a message for her to call me. She did, just a few minutes later. "Hi, sweetie," she said when I answered. "Hi, what's up?" "Same old thing, how are you?" "I was thinking of coming down this weekend." "That would be great. I should be finished with the project we're working on by Friday." "Good. What project?" "It's one of the charities our boss is involved with. We're developing a contest with lots of prizes for the biggest contributors. It's fun, but a lot of work." "Are you working on it today?" "No, I needed some rest, so I took this afternoon off." "And what are you doing?" "Just relaxing." "Good for you. Get your rest and I'll see you Friday." "Okay, sweetie, take care. Love you." "Bye." I tried to say love you, but it wouldn't come out. I walked back through the garage past her still empty parking space to the elevator, got off on her floor and rang the bell several times and waited each time before giving up and leaving. For just a very brief moment I was torn between leaving and continuing my stakeout and waiting for her. I even thought about calling her again and telling her where I was, but decided against it. She had made her bed and was probably lying in it. The problem was it wasn't her bed she was lying in if that's what she was doing. I left and I took my time driving home. There were 2 cars on one side of the driveway and 2 parked on the street. One was my parents' car and one was Jeff's. I wasn't in the mood for company, and since they thought I was going to be gone for the rest of the week, I wondered why they were there in the first place. I pulled into the drive and used my remote to open the garage door. Louise's car was in the garage. I got out and the kitchen door was opened by Jeff. He bowed at the waist and ushered me in, then led me to the living room where my parents, Jenny, Sophie, Jenny, and Louise's mother and brother and Louise were standing. Louise was standing in front of the fireplace, surrounded by the others. Jeff nudged me toward her. Everyone was smiling except Louise. She just looked nervous. I went to her and she, honest to God, knelt on one knee. "Tim, I love you. If you're going to kidnap anyone, I want it to be me so we can live happily ever after. Will you marry me?" she asked as she held a small box up to me. The events of the day melted away as I opened the box to find a gold ring with a diamond mounted in it staring at me. She was still on one knee as I took the ring from the box and looked closer at it. I started to put it on my finger, but she stood and stopped me. "No, silly. That's the wedding ring. You can't put it on until the wedding. That is if there's going to be a wedding, because you haven't answered me." I looked around at the faces in the room, then looked at her. Sure, why not? Everybody cheered. Romantic? Not in the least, but I said it with a big smile as I hugged her. You are such a jerk, she said after we kissed. Picking today of all days to visit me. You nearly screwed up the whole thing. My father patted me on the back. We didn't know what to do. You insisted on going to. Houston and Louise was on her way here. Even Jeff tried to stop you. We talked to her, and she told us that you would most likely be back this evening, so we went ahead with things. What was so important that you insisted on going today? I looked at the people around me. Honestly? Yes, everyone but Sophie and Louise said in unison. Louise spoke up. Let me see if I can explain it. She took a deep breath and held both of my hands in hers. The last couple of months I think we have both felt like we've been growing apart. Two separate lives and living hours away from each other. Both of us happy in our jobs and lives, but feeling like something was missing. I looked back over my time in Houston and remembered the parties, the fun, the people, everything I wanted out of life. My job is perfect, but my life is incomplete. It's incomplete because I can't share those great parts of it with you. Tears were in her eyes as she continued. I knew that if I had those feelings, you would have them too, if you loved me. The feelings of wanting to share with me all aspects of your life, the good things about your business and the joy you have when things are going well. She paused. Am I right? All I could do was nod my head up and down. I love you, Tim, with every fiber of my being. And I love you, I told her, and meant it. That's when the party began. Sophie, Jeff, and Jenny were the last to leave. Sophie wanted to hug me, so I picked her up. Does this mean you're my uncle now? She asked in a whisper. It does, I whispered back. Good. After they were gone, Louise and I sat on the sofa, each with a drink, leaning back relaxed, content to be in each other's company. Do you know another reason I went to Houston today? I asked her. I think I do. Why? You were concerned about my living there alone and possibly getting involved with another man. Were you? What, getting involved with another man? Yes. No. The only men I had any real association with were my producer, my studio crew, and Thomas, and Thomas was her co-host. It's Thomas I was most worried about. All those events you went to and your pictures in the paper, I was concerned and jealous. She leaned over and kissed me. Oh, silly. I could tell you that Thomas was gay and you had nothing to worry about, but that would be a lie. The truth is, he's the most egotistical bastard I've ever seen. He expects people, especially women, to fawn all over him. We worked well together, but personally I don't care for him and he doesn't care for me. She sipped her drink. I wouldn't lie about him being gay, but I lied to you. I chuckled. Yes, you did. My building manager helped. I was on my way here when your father called and told me. You were on your way there. I called the manager and told her what was going on. She said she'd take care of it. She called me a few minutes later and told me that maintenance was on their way to change the lock on my door. She figured if you could get in the apartment, you'd stay and wait for me regardless of how long it took, and neither of us wanted that. I thought I knew you well to know how you'd react if you thought I was doing something wrong, so that's the direction I took. I knew that if I gave you a reason, that you wouldn't stick around for details. Your experience with Lori would cause you to think the worst and act accordingly. I'm sorry I misled you, but I knew it would get you back here where I wanted to propose to you with your family present. Do you forgive me? That was a no-brainer. Of course I do, and I'm sorry for my lame acceptance. I was in shock. She laughed. We all wanted you to be in shock. Well, I was. I leaned over and kissed her. I loved this woman. Then I took another sip of my drink. What time are you leaving to go back to Houston? It was a 4-hour drive and she had a show to do, so she normally left in the middle of the night. I had forgotten about her show earlier that day. Or are you driving back tonight? I asked. I didn't want to waste any more time. I wanted to get her in bed. Soon. Well, she hesitated. Let's talk about that. Today's show was recorded on Monday. The shows for tomorrow and Friday were recorded yesterday. Friday's show will announce that it will be my last one because I want to go home to be with my future husband. I sat there looking at her. That's okay, isn't it? Of course it's okay. It's better than okay. It's great, but aren't you going to miss it? Yes, but I miss you more, and I was hoping to convince my old station here to let me develop a show that would showcase local heroes, talent, events, and people. That should last until what? Until the baby gets here, then we'll see. I took a sip. She sat there watching me. Did you hear what I just said? I did. I just didn't know Jenny was pregnant. She shook her head. She isn't, Goose, I am. Oh. I managed to not drop my glass as I put it on the table and grabbed her. Our life is great. Louise is back at her old station doing the same kind of show she did in Houston, only she does it without a co-host. Our daughter Danielle is gorgeous. My father's and my business is doing well, and Sophie can't wait until she can walk with Danielle and hold her hand to keep her from getting lost.